Welcome back to the Painted Peach. If you like what you see here, I'd love it if you'd subscribe to my channel, hit that bell so you never miss a thing. Today I'm a part of Just Our Imagination, hosted by Kathy Jo DIYs, Rustic and Lace DIY, and guest hosted by Craft Classy. Here's the guidelines for today. I'm starting out with DIY number 1, Pooper Scooper. This cracked me up. I have a chicken pooper scooper that I'm working with today, and this sticker on here, just so you guys know, took me probably 30 minutes to get off. It was a doozy. I am starting out with painting vintage white all over the scooper, and we are going to give it probably, I think I did 3 coats, drying in between, because this blue was really hard to cover up. Once I get it all painted up and dry, we're gonna move on and we're gonna paint a snowman face on the base of the scooper. So I start out with some folk art black and folk art orange. And I'm just taking the end of my marker and making 2 little eyeballs. Then we're going to get our little thin paintbrush and we're going to draw or paint out a carrot nose. Pretty simple. This one really threw me for a loop, and I was going to make it into a shovel, and I think everybody's probably going to do that, and who knows, they'll probably all make a snowman. These mines, though, they might cut it up and turn it into something crazy. All right, so Distress Oxide in the pink color, and we're going to make sure it's good and dry. I'm going to go over that nose a couple times. I'm also going to add in some brown to make it a little less orangey. And then I'm getting the end of my paintbrush and putting white dots on the eyes. I'm putting a little bit of eyebrow going on to give him some character, and then we're just going to get our Posca paint pen out and draw him a cute little wiggly mouth. This is a super simple face, and I think anybody could do it. The next thing I'm going to do is get out some spray snow. I wanted to test this out and see if it worked good. I really think I should have just went with my spackle, because once it dried it just kind of flaked off. I'm going to try to spray it with some of my sealer and see if it stays on there, and if not, I'm probably just going to go back over it with some spackle. But I wanted to add some snow in there, and I thought, why not just experiment a little bit and see what works. You know, if we don't experiment, we don't find new things, right? So I decided I wanted a cute little bow on him, so I'm going to get out some of my fabrics and my bow dabra, and we're going to make a cute little bow for our snowman. I decided to choose some neutral fabrics, that way I could keep this out all winter and I didn't have to just keep it out during the Christmas season. So I'm just layering the primitive fabrics on here and tying them off with a little bit of jute twine and making sure it's good and tight. I will trim off a little bit of those ends that are longer, but mostly this bow turned out super cute, and I had to kind of fiddle with it just a bit to get it real nice and tight because it was very thick. So here I am giving it a little haircut, and then we're going to attach it to our snowman handle with some hot glue. It didn't stick very well to the plastic with the paint on it. It did come off, and then I ended up having to glue it again, so I do suggest you add a little bit of a stronger glue, especially because I sprayed that snow on there. I should have wiped it down with some alcohol. Here is DIY number 2, the clipboard. So I have my clipboard, some music paper, a little spindle, and a picture frame, and I'm going to make something out of this clipboard. I was struggling with this one too, and what's funny is I thought this was going to be the easiest one, and I struggled the most with it. I'm not sure I really like what I end up with, but you know, I made something and it's useful. So I'm getting my Mod Podge out and covering the whole thing with Mod Podge. I already trimmed off my music paper so it would go up around that clip, and we are going to attach it with the Mod Podge straight onto the board. I added a little bit too much Mod Podge, so I had to kind of keep wiping it until it got spread out really good. And then I'm just lifting up that clip and pushing it through and making sure it's good and secure and wiping off any excess Mod Podge. Once I do that, I kind of sand off the edges a little bit. I'm out of frame, I know. Sorry about that. And then I'm going to get out my dark wax, and we're going to go around all the corners with a little brush and kind of rub it in. I do end up getting out my clear wax and rubbing over it just to smear it in and make it look less, I don't know, strong on there. What's the word I'm looking for? Less bright, I don't know. Anyways, you can see there I'm wiping it back with a little bit of clear wax just to take out some of that darkness. Once I do that, we're then going to move on to painting our silver up there. We don't want that silver. Everything's more of a brown, grungy kind of thing, and then it's going to end up being gold. So we're just going to paint over that with a little bit of mocha underneath, and then we're going to use a Folk Art Metallic Antique Gold to go over the top of that. Mainly my goal here is to kind of hide this, not really hide it, but blend it in with the rest of what's going on. So I did not think that silver would blend very well, and that's why I decided it needed to be gold. I'm taking that same gold and I'm painting my spindle with it so that it blends in with the clip on the clipboard, and I'm going to end up gluing that onto the clip just to give it a little bit of a decorative look. I don't really know where I'm going with this at this point. I'm just adding things and seeing how it turns out. I have this antique gold frame that has some little doves on it, and I'm just tearing off the back piece that stands it up so that I can glue it on to my paper right in the middle there so it can be like a little picture frame. So I just do this with hot glue. I do suggest you do something a little more, maybe some Tight Bond or something like that so that it stays really well. I wasn't sure how I was going to like this, so I just used hot glue for now, and if it comes off, I'll add a better glue later. So I only glued the back, and then the front of it does open so I can insert a picture at some point. I kept the little piece that's inside so I could cut my picture to size, and then I'm just taking the gold that I painted up there and I went around the whole clipboard. I had this piece of ribbon with some jewels that hang down, and I just thought about adding this at the last minute, so I glued that onto the clip, and then I glued my spindle right on top of that. And I thought it added just a little bit of fancy touch. Here I'm trying to figure out where I want to glue it. I also had a gold flower, or I had two of them, and I glued one to the top up here. It ends up popping off, so I add a little bit of fabric from that ribbon behind it, and then I add another one to the actual picture frame just to tie it in, and I think that it added the perfect color of the other gold. Now I'm just adding in a little bit of some greenery. This is the Hobby Lobby discontinued greenery that I use, and it's more primitive, and I think it just works with this a little bit better than a different, brighter green. So I just hot glue that into the top of the clip because I'm not going to be using this clip. It's just there, and I just wanted to hide all that, hardware that's in there, and I thought greenery would be the perfect way to do that. Once I do that, I then add that little flower to the picture frame and the top of the clip, and this is a complete project. I just need to add a picture and sit it out on display. I'm not too sure if I like how it turned out, but it is what it is. All right, let's move on to DIY number 3, the wire basket. I chose a waste basket, and I also have a platter that I think I got from Hobby Lobby. I'm pulling out a bunch of stuff I end up not even really using, but I was stumped at the beginning of this, like all the rest of them, and I just decided to pull out a bunch of junk. Well, junk to other people, you know, it's goodies to us. I start out by painting this little platter. It's not a platter, I can't think what this is called, but you know what it is. I'm going to paint it with Folk Art black matte paint, and I'm going to do a couple coats to make sure the white is all covered up. And I get out my finishing wax and wax the whole thing over just to protect that paint, because I am going to be putting that wire basket on there and I don't want it to scrape it all up. After that's complete, I get out some ribbons and start fiddling around with this trash can to see if I like any of the ribbons. I don't like any of the ones I have, so I plunder some more. And I end up grabbing this black velvet ribbon. And I attach this snowflake black and white ribbon over the top of it. And I really like the look of that. Once I get that on, I then pull out some greenery to see what I want to add. Thought about adding white, and then I changed my mind. I just use the regular greenery. I'm going to use a pine cone, and we're going to make a little bow and put a snowflake on it. I thought if I went with the white, it was just going to be too much black and white, and I needed a little bit of green in with my snowman hat because, you know, it's got to have some color in there, right? So I'm adding all that greenery. I'm just using hot glue. I'm not gluing the top of the hat down to the platter because I want to be able to remove it and add a light in there. So I'm adding all this greenery, the pine cone, making the bow, and attaching everything. If you want to check out everybody else in this fun playlist, make sure you look in my description. They're all linked in there. All the hosts are linked in there, and then the playlist itself is linked in there so that you can see what everybody creates with these 3 objects. All right, so now I have this, I believe this is doll house wallpaper that I've had for a super long time that I could never figure out what I wanted to do with. I'm just cutting a circle out of that, and I'm going to paint both sides of it with the same black that I used on the charger. And we are going to put this, or add a ring of hot glue around the edge and attach it to the bottom of our trash can, which is the top of our top hat. This will give me a base that I can then use to add some spackle to create a snow effect. So I'm going to use my spackle, and I'm going to just use my finger and add it all the way around the top of the hat on the edge. And then I'm also going to use my finger to add it all the way around the brim of the hat or the charger, and that will give the effect of snow. Once I finish that up, I get my Epsom salt. No, that's not Epsom salt. I get my sea salt out, and I add some of that into the snow for an icy look, and then I add a little bit of Mod Podge to that snowflake and add some of that on there as well. Then I just take the whole rest of that salt and I pour it in the bottom of our charger plate, or on top of our charger plate, and then I add a little tea light in there, and it is finished. Here is the final reveal. Here's our cute little snowman, our pooper scooper snowman, and he's adorable. And then we have our picture frame clipboard. Still on the fence about this one, but you know, sometimes we have things we create that we just don't like. I mean, I like it, but it's not my favorite. And here's my favorite, the snowman candle hat. I don't know what to call it, but it's adorable, and I hope that you like it too. Thanks for joining me today. I have so much fun with this playlist. Make sure you check out these hosts and the link in my description for the rest of the creatives that are in this playlist. Everybody is so creative and come up with some great ideas. If you like what you see here, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell. And as always, stay peachy.